My talk tonight is titled, The Absolute Insanity of Gratitude. And there's a reason for that. It's not just the conflict of Christmas, still Thanksgiving, some Christmas, some Thanksgiving. We are asked to carry two different thoughts sometimes three or four, that we find ourselves in this nexus of stuff that should never be, like Anne Lamott said, a Venn diagram, really of anything. But here we are, and it's in the midst of two seasons, two ideas, and yet they all meld together because we are in this, what we call the holiday season, the season of light. And how wonderful it is that we are human sentient beings capable of holding different ideas at the same time, that we are able to look at one and hold another, hold that one and hold this one over here, and to allow them to embrace each other so that all of it comes together in a sense of, wow, this life does have some order. It does have some order. And so my thought tonight was that I love this idea of a gratitude service. As I said, we haven't done one in a while. And once we're past me spouting off and doing all that stuff that I think I have to do, we will have some audience participation time where you get to express that stuff that you're grateful for. So don't get nervous, don't go unconscious on me, but just begin to sort of plant an idea of, what is it that I'm grateful for this season? And the reason I look at this as kind of an insanity thing is we find ourselves in not just precarious times in this country, but downright crazy times in this country. And in the world, if all that you chose to look at was what's going on out there, or what's going on locally or nationally, internationally, you would truly, truly want to just crawl under the piano with a big bottle of Chardonnay and some chocolate and never come up for air. It's very tempting. It's not a sustainable protocol. Oh, good. Well, Louise got it. There are better ways to process the stress and the anxiety of life, because there is more to it than that. And yet, if all we're doing is focusing on what's going on and how the news just wants to trigger us and seems to come at us like it's being shot out of a cannon sometimes, it can be very hard to find our center, which is why we have places and spaces like this church. It's why we have places and spaces where I hope you will gather with friends, with family, or at least with a sense of centeredness and peace tomorrow, so that you, whether you eat turkey or a cheeseburger or salad, that you are able to just simply slow down, breathe. As Anne Lamott said, practice some ploppage, where you just plop yourself down and take a moment to center. Take a moment to realize that there's more than what appears, that there's more than what you see, that this thing that we call life is so much greater than the little shards of evidence that sometimes get thrown at us. So I want to tell you a story of gratitude. Anthony Ray Hinton spent 30 years on death row for a crime he did not commit. He was working in a locked factory at the time of the crime that he was being accused of. The police told him he would be going to jail because, well, you know, he was black. His time in jail was spent in solitary confinement in a 5 by 7 foot cell, allowed out only 1 hour a day. But Hinton quickly became a friend and counselor to other inmates and the death row guards, many of whom begged Hinton's attorney to get him out. It took 30 years, but a unanimous Supreme Court ruling ordered his release, and he was able to walk free. In an interview, he is quoted saying, "One does not know the value of freedom until it is taken away. People run out of the rain. I run into the rain. I'm so grateful for every drop just to feel it on my face." Hinton was later interviewed on 60 Minutes. The interviewer asked if he was angry at the people who put him in jail. He said he forgave them all. Interviewer asked, but they took 30 years of your life. How can you not be angry? And he responded, if I'm angry and unforgiven, they will have taken the rest of my life. How often do we put ourselves in a prison of our own making, of our own thoughts, of our own judgments, of our own fear, of our own resentments, holding a sense of unforgiveness towards someone, or not being grateful, or not being able to find that key out of that prison, out of that cell, which is simply just being willing to have a little peek at something to be grateful for, to just allow some gratitude. So this idea might not land with you, and he said this, the world did not give you your joy. Now, most of us think that we are joyful, we are happy because of the stuff that happens to us, but there's so much more to it. So how much of your life have you spent angry or unforgiving for far less suffering, or for circumstances out of anyone's control? Unfortunately, many of us spend our lives angry, or we don't forgive ourselves. A lot of people, a lot of us. Hinton is such a strong example of that ability, that capacity to respond with joy and gratitude despite horrendous circumstances. I don't know if I could do it. I really don't. I know I'd have to, but that would test my mettle incredibly, incredibly. He is quoted in another interview. The world didn't give you your joy, and the world can't take it away. You can let people come into your life and destroy it, but I refuse to let anyone take my joy. I wake up in the morning, and I don't need anyone to make me laugh. I'm going to laugh on my own because I have been blessed to see another day. And when you're blessed to see another day, that should automatically give you joy. How many of us are blessed to see another day? It's an interesting idea. It's that old thing of, do you wake up in the morning and you go, good morning, God? Or do you say, good God morning? We teach our kids a practice of having 5 things, of just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So grateful for this, 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 and this. And I find myself sometimes, if I can't go to sleep at night, one of my practices is to breathe and to begin to think of all of those things I can be grateful for. And in order to keep it sort of organized, I go alphabetically. And like A, I'm grateful for apples. I really am. B, I'm grateful for Bella, that's my dog. C, I'm grateful for Charlie, my husband. D, I'm grateful for donuts. E, I'm grateful for, and I will come up with stuff. And usually before I get to E or F, I'm asleep. But it's just a practice that allows me to put myself in another frame of mind. So we talk a lot here about spiritual practice. And one of the practices that we can all engage in is doing a gratitude meditation. And, we want to think of meditation, even though we do teach it here, we do practice meditation and breathing and doing anything we can, centering, blessing, oneness blessing. We hear that word and we often just want to go into that place of, okay, sitting alone in a dark room with your legs crossed. And at my age, I'm not going to cross those legs and sit on the ground, because if I do, I'm never getting up. So, sitting on a chair, nice cushion, and going, Om, oh my God, how much longer am I doing this? But it's really about the willingness to spend 5 minutes in the morning to start your day connected with a sense that there is something greater. When we do a meditation or just a contemplation, some time committed in a regular way to gratitude, it doesn't just have tremendous health benefits. It lowers our blood pressure. It can absolutely begin to shift things like cholesterol and immune response and all of the stress factors that we have from living in the Western world. But it also begins to offer a different perspective than the one that we get from CNN or any other news service. It's a different perspective because what it means is it's 5 minutes of Spirit's perspective. And that is this perspective of perfection. That is the perspective of peace. It is the perspective of not this out here, but this in here. And maybe that time spent where you can consciously intend to find something to be grateful for is just when you go home tonight and you're thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I be grateful for? You close your eyes and once again you see the lights in here, which are amazing and beautiful. And we had, Daniel started decorating for us today. And I didn't know that he was going to be able to get all of it done, but there's a wreath here, as you saw. You saw one, if you noticed it coming in the hallway out there. Also, if you turn around, there's one on the wall behind our audio desk. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And he did it all. I didn't expect it to be done for another week and a half because I know that they want to go on vacation. I said, just don't worry about it. We'll do it later. We'll just, if you can put a few lights, maybe the tree up or something. And I walked in today and Natalie had also decorated the whole foyer out there, if you saw that. And it's just magical. Then she went and decorated our office. There's so much to be grateful for. And what I know is there's so much more to be grateful for than to be angry about. Didn't you write a song like that? Something like that? I have so much more to be grateful than to be sorry for. And that's the whole thing. Because if we can begin to change, to shift the pattern of our thinking, because our negativity too often becomes very automatic. We'll justify it by saying, well, I'm going to just focus on preparing in case anything bad happens. We meet regularly with insurance people. We meet regularly with different consultants about our church and about the things that we need to do. And we got into a discussion last night with our board about security for the church. And it's very easy to go into a place of fear about, are we secure? Are we taking care of things? What about this? What if that happens? What if that happens? And what if that happens? And suddenly it's like, no, time out, you guys. Call to prayer, which is one of the things that we will do if we start to spin. And I want to suggest you do that too in your own families, especially anybody having people over who don't agree with you, I don't know, about politics. Try to just talk about the recipes on your table, the food for your table. But if it spins out of control, call to prayer even within yourself. If I'm breathing, this will be over soon. I'm breathing, I'm grateful for apples, for Bella, for Charlie, for donuts. When we practice gratitude, doing a gratitude meditation, it actually helps us to open our eyes to the larger systems at play in our lives, the synchronicities. And there are so many of them. Do you realize how much divine choreography it took to get all of us here tonight in the same place at the same time, all with the same overall intention, which is to come together in joy and in peace? And yet somehow it happened. The choreography included the music. It included the lyrics to the music. It included Ginny doing that reading from Richard Rohr. It included the decorations. It included all of this stuff. It included the electronics, the technology. That's a lot of divine choreography. That's synchronization. That is divine symmetry. And yet we don't even notice it. We don't think about it. And yet, if we can begin to start little by little by little, brick by brick, as the saying goes, to begin finding those things that we can be grateful for, especially in the moment. In the moment is a really good one. I remember one time being in line at the grocery store, and it was like the 10-item line, and I had 8 items because I'm a good girl. And there were people in front of me who didn't have 10 items. They had a lot more than that. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to kill me. And so I started saying the serenity prayer over and over and over and over and over and over. And I got home and I said to my husband, who is a recovery counselor and has been doing that for many years, I said, geez, it didn't change a damn thing. I just kept saying it, and they still went on. He said, oh, it's not supposed to change anything. It's just supposed to give you something else to do. So I'm grateful I didn't kill anybody that day. A great gratitude meditation gets us unstuck. It gets us unstuck. And I know that there's so many times that I can feel stuck in my ideas about what should be going on, what didn't go on, what I want to go on but probably won't go on, or what, she talked about that ruining the future. What's the acronym? FEAR? Yeah, the already ruined, feeling an already ruined future. I think that's what it was. Any of us do that, where you have the conversation, like it might be a conversation that you may or may not have in a week, a day, whatever, a year, or maybe you had it already, but it can ruin your present moment because you're scripting it and you're going, yes, but I should have said, I could have said, or he's going to say, or I know he says, and then she always says, and now we are running with the script that, who cares, first of all, and why would you do that? Because all it is doing is robbing from our present moment of experience. All the power in the universe is active, available, and working through us in this present moment. In this present moment. In this present moment. It's always active and working through us. And so we have all of the power in the universe right here and right now that is working through us. And so we have this incredible, incredible gift called choice. We get to choose. Raymond Charles Barker was one of the great students of Ernest Holmes and actually of Charles Fillmore. He was ordained in both unity and in religious science. And he wrote this: thought controlled is experience determined. Just think about that. Thought controlled is experience determined. Life requires of us disciplined thinking if we are to become the full expressions of God's plan. We can tarry in the halls of hope, dream, and vision. Or we can do something this day to bring to pass the desires of our hearts. The infinite mind never inhibits our freedom. We stand, this is so incredible to me, we stand in the limitless possibility of greatness or the limitless possibility of failure. And our consciousness alone, we determine our lives and their results. Choose ye this day whom you will serve. That's what we read. That comes right out of the Bible for those of you who are keeping score at home. Do you want to serve fear and resentment? You can. Or do you want to serve, oh my God, the pure potentiality and the magnificence that resides within your very soul? And you don't have to be a Bible reader, lover, liker, hater, or follower or anything to get the gist of that message. There are a lot of wisdom texts in the world, and they all, at a certain point, say the same thing. Are you going to follow that gift, that passion, that presence that is calling to emerge through you as a divine, magnificent idea and gift and talent? Are you going to be service to that? Or are you going to be in service to CNN? Okay, it doesn't say that in the Quran, but are you going to be in service to fear? Are you going to be in service to worry? Will you be in service to resentment? Will you be in service to that which you are still just about that happened 5 years ago? Which one are you going to be following? Because whatever one we follow, remember, go back to that idea, all the power in the universe is active within and at us right here and right now. So if we are choosing to anchor in this thing that happened or might happen or didn't happen or should happen or whatever that thing is for you, we're going to do that and rehearse it and anchor it and get angry and whatever it is, that righteousness about it, then this universal power says, yes, okay, you want more? You seem to, because that's what you're thinking about all the time. That's what you're talking about. That's where you're dwelling. That's where you're living. You camp there. So yeah, I can do that for you. The universe kind of walks away going, I have all of these other options, and yet choosing to be angry and resentful and limited. right? That's what we do. And I say this not because, oh my God, how stupid, how bad, but this is called the Wednesday wake up, right? We're supposed to wake up to that which we might have just fallen into. It's so easy. It's that easy habit. It's just that easy thing. It just, that slippery slope, that more and more, and then suddenly we're there and we're camping in that field of mud as opposed to being in, the field of joy, of possibility, of magnificence. And what I have found is that if I am willing to remember that there's another possibility, gratitude is the stairway out of that field. It is the rope to grab onto that pulls me out. It is that thing that just, okay, okay, all right, yeah, phew, yeah, go away, dirty field, dirty campground where I don't want to be. I'm camping over here now. And that's what we get to do. It's gratitude. It is that gratitude. Nelson Mandela served 27 years in prison. Mahatma Gandhi was sentenced to 6 years in prison after organizing a non-violent protest that turned violent. He was horrified by the violence, yet he served his sentence and continued to inspire his people and his movement. So as we face the challenges that life can throw at us, and there will be lots, because the more we grow, the more we have opportunities to grow even more. I don't make the rules. I'm not even in the enforcer. I'm just kind of the messenger on this stuff. And so the more we grow and the more we awaken, the more opportunities we're going to have to awaken. So as we face those challenges, we need to make a choice about who we are, how we're going to react. If we aren't able to keep hope, to accept what is, as opposed to hiding from it, denying it, putting our heads in the sand, and to choose gratitude, even in the midst, it's very hard to move forward. Have you noticed? It's very hard to move forward. We can't always know what the current season of life is going to provide later on, or even, tomorrow. So the challenge is find gratitude every day. There's always something to be grateful for. There's always something, even if it's as small as, okay, I'm grateful for the fact that I realize I could be grateful, that I have a choice. And maybe we start there. Grateful for these chairs that you're all sitting on that are supportive. They're paid for, and you get to be on them, and that we are in this beautiful sanctuary. Grateful for a roof over our head. Grateful for the people around us. Grateful for the music. Grateful for whatever it is. I mean, we're still getting hummingbirds in our yard. I'm damn grateful about that because it's just incredibly beautiful. So set a reminder on your phone to be grateful. Find a wallpaper image that you can put on your phone. Pick a doorway in your home and hang a little sign that says, be grateful. And then every time you walk through that door, touch the door. Touch the door frame, just to remind you. So now you've got a physical reminder too. We spend too much time living in the past and dwelling in the things that went wrong. I mean, you're welcome to do that, but it poisons our actions in the present moment. And it slows our momentum for the future. And I really want all of us to be hitting the ground running with excitement, with our hair on fire about the possibilities of what is before us, of what we can create together, what we can create with life, with this world, with this country. There's so much that we can create, but we have to find the way to remember that we are so much more. We are so much more.